Today's video is all about construction permits. Now, not having the proper permits could cost you thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars, depending on the type of project and your local jurisdiction. So, in this video, we're going to simplify the permit process from start to finish. So, let's go. All right, let's first answer the question, why is the building permit process
so confusing?
Well, the location of where the construction project is located will determine the permitting requirements. This means that you can have two cities or two counties that are right across the street from one another, or essentially two construction projects right across the street from one another, and they can have totally different permitting requirements. And this is because the AHJ, which stands for the authority having jurisdiction, determines these permit requirements. The authority having jurisdiction are most often your local municipalities, such as your building department, your health department, and your fire department. And these translate directly into the inspection process, with the most notable individuals being your building inspector, your health inspector, your electrical inspector, and your fire marshal. Now, I'll get back to these individuals in just a minute. So this is where most people get hung up in the permitting process, because not only do the requirements change based on the location of the project, but the process for applying likely changes as well. Each AHJ could have their own online portal for tracking permits and inspections, requiring a unique username and a password created to log in. Some AHJs require digital submissions, some require hard copy submissions, and some require a combination of both. So if you are the general contractor or construction manager, it is most often your responsibility to pull and pay for the permits, with your first step of homework being to go online to that local building department's website and do your homework and research about all the requirements needed to pull and pay for the permit itself.
Not to worry, I have a permit.
This just says I can do what I want.
So the first step in the permitting process would be a licensed architect and a licensed set of engineers put together a set of permit drawings, which are submitted to the local AHJ and sometimes the state, depending on the type of project. The local building department will have an application process that the architect and the engineers will complete, and this requires specific documents submitted based on the requirements of the application, along with a cost or an associated fee. From there, the AHJs will go through a process called plan review, where they review the drawings for conformance with local and state code requirements. If the state is required to review the permit set, the local city or county might have the state complete their review first. Now, this is why the permitting process could take so long, because if the state kicks back the permit set of drawings as not approved, requiring a revision by the architect and engineers, you could lose weeks or months depending on how quickly they can resubmit. Now, even without the state being part of the review process, the local plan review might also have a step process, which could also take time. The building department has different individuals reviewing different parts of the drawings for compliance, such as architectural, mechanical, structural, civil, plumbing, and electrical. Then they could kick it over to the fire department to review fire and life safety requirements. So once all of the AHJs agree that the permit set of drawings meet all code compliance requirements, they will stamp the permit set of drawings as approved or conditionally approved. If conditionally approved, they will return a letter stating the needs that need to be clarified, updated, or included, but this conditional approval allows for an approval without a revision. This will then trigger the next step in the process, which allows the entity pulling the permits to apply for those permits. Now, majority of the time, the contractor is responsible for pulling the permits based on the language in the contract. Now, I just want to stop and reiterate that the contractor cannot pull permits until the architect and the associated engineers have completed that first step and gone through plan approval and had that plan approval or permit set stamped and approved. So as the contractor leading up to this step, You're going to want to be in close contact with the architect or the owner to understand where everything is at in the process. This is important because projects usually have a defined start date and a defined finish date that you have to work within. And the permitting process is one of the first things that can delay a contractor on a project, because the first step is out of the contractor's control. So again, once the AHJs have stamped the permit set of drawings, the contractor can start their applications to pull those permits. Now, this is where I'd urge you to pause and take a deep breath.
Goose from goose blah blah.
Okay, the most important takeaway from this entire video are these next steps. Number 1, go online and research all the permitting requirements needed as part of your project. They should all be outlined on the building department's website. Now, print these out or PDF all these documents, read and digest them. This will outline everything that you'll need to pull and to potentially pay for as part of this process. The importance of this is because there could be some odd requirement that you may have to complete that you've not completed on another project, even similar, just the next city or county over. A lot of the time, it's not just submitting a fee or a check and picking up your permit. You might be required to submit additional documents depending on which permit you're looking to pull. Again, I cannot reiterate or stress this point enough. Do your research and do your homework. Now, the second critical or crucial part of this process on your end is to have all of this information in front of you and just call your local building department to confirm this list of items and requirements with someone over the phone. Ask for someone who specifically works in the department responsible for issuing permits. Do not skip this step. This is the best way to both make that initial contact with someone and help you confirm that you're working to compile everything that you'll need and that you're not missing anything. Ask questions about anything that doesn't make sense to you. Honestly, sometimes it's as simple as the website is out of date or the process has changed and the website has not been updated. A good example is what we experienced during COVID, which changed a lot of municipal processes. Get the person's contact information in case you need to follow up on anything as well. Okay, so now you've compiled and submitted everything. The next step is that you'll wait for the building department to contact you. They'll call you and say that your permit is ready, at which point they'll tell you how much it is, and from there you'll go drop off a check and pick up the permit and post it on your job site. And I'll just note, on a $30 million project, your building permit alone could be upwards of $30,000. Now, after you've pulled and paid for all these permits, we'll transition into the inspections portion of the project. But before we talk about that, let's talk about common permits required on commercial construction projects in general. So number 1 is the building permit, which typically covers both building and HVAC and is followed up by the building inspector. This permit is almost always pulled by the general contractor or construction manager. Now, if the plan review and permitting process is looking to be slower than normal, many jurisdictions will offer early start permits for footings and foundations, which allow you to proceed with construction up to your foundations, but no further, to limit the impact on schedule until the rest of the permit process is complete. Number 2 is the site stormwater runoff permit, which typically is issued through the state or the DNR, which stands for the Department of Natural Resources. This typically comes from the state directly, acknowledging that you're going to be disturbing a lot of soil for a period of time. Number 3 is your actual erosion control permit. Now, the state and DNR acknowledge that you're disturbing a lot of soil in that site stormwater runoff permit, but your local municipality will typically require you to establish erosion control in the project, which requires an erosion control permit. This permit typically is pulled by the earthworker or the general contractor, depending on how it's laid out in the actual contract. Number 4 is a right-of-way permit, which typically is required when you're connecting private projects back into public roadways or utilities. This is typical when you're cutting in a new drive lane onto a main road or connecting sanitary, storm, water, gas, electric in or across a roadway. The last permits typical for commercial construction are your building plumbing, your site plumbing, electrical, and fire suppression. The general contractor typically delegates these permits and the associated fees to the specific contractors pulling those permits. because they're the ones that are typically responsible for the scope and calling those inspections. So building plumbing would be pulled by your plumber, site plumbing by your site plumber, electrical by your electrician, fire suppression, etc. So the key takeaways are that the permit process is the checks and balance approach to ensuring that a new building is going to meet all the applicable code requirements. The permit fees are essentially to cover the municipality's time from plan review through these inspections to issuing final occupancy. And finally, calling the building department and talking through the process so that you understand it fully is probably the best thing that you can do for yourself and for your project. Having a project sit on hold because you don't have the right permits could cost thousands of dollars. An AHJ has the right to shut down or pause a project if the proper permits are not pulled, and can withhold issuing occupancy permits if inspections are not completed. Okay, this should give you a good understanding of the permit process from start to finish. The secret is that you know the requirements will change based on the location of the project, and that each time you submit under a different municipality, to expect something different. All right, I hope you learned something new in today's video. As always, be better, build better, and bye for now.